It's our first time meeting, and
Yes, it
what I love
is.
about you is you like me, you like to change your hair, like,
Oh, yes, I do.
I have this week. And I saw that you are a coach to friends and colleagues of mine and to one of the stars of Red Pill, Adeshala Osakalumi.
Yes, I am. It's such an honor. He's an amazing human being.
So amazing. He came
Yeah.
to my film when Harold Perrineau, I was not able to match the schedules of Harold Perrineau and Ruben Blades for the same time. And so I had to choose Ruben Blades, Harold Perrineau, and I chose Ruben. And then I was like, Adeshala, could you come in? And he totally got this character and came in and did it for me. And he's so talented.
Oh,
Choreography,
he is.
dancing, acting,
Yeah.
singing, just extraordinary.
He really is, and so humble.
And I think I'm gonna have to come and study with you. So
You are welcome anytime.
next
It
week,
would be my honor.
I was looking at your blog.
Mm.
And first of all, besides just the little offerings of writing, I loved all the images that you find for each of those offerings. Really beautiful images.
Oh, thank you.
Where do you find them?
Actually, I think it's a site called Unsplash where they photographers can put up their work and then you just license them and use them because there's some amazing photographers that use that site.
Well, the art that you have is amazing, and it really uplifts and makes you like, I want to read what she has to say.
Oh, good.
Invites me in to want to see that. So I want to share the newest trailer for my movie today with everybody.
Great.
So we're going to try to do a screen share and welcome everybody. We're going to share this new trailer. Uh, and then we'll have a chat about the world we're living in right now. Here we go.
We are a majority.
That's why I'm so jumpy tonight. You know what, guys? I'm gonna go back tomorrow.
Did you hear about the preacher woman that attacked the father and son hunting down here?
I don't see the place. This place creeps me out.
I think we should call the sheriff's office.
The only people missing or dead are brown people.
They're after all of us.
What are we doing here?
We die, but we take some of them with us.
So that's our new trailer. I don't know if you could hear it. I could barely hear it.
Ooh, it's going to be incredible.
I love to be scared. It makes me so happy. Adrenaline rush, the tension and the release of that. Do you like scary movies?
I'm not a huge fan of them, but I love the psychological scary. So, yeah.
Well, this is definitely psychological scary, but I like jump scares a lot. I actually do like jump scares, but for the genre, you got to give a little. I don't like slashers. I
No,
don't.
no.
So we don't have a lot of that, but we give you some scary. We give you some scary, which is kind of I think for a lot of people, the world we're living in right now is very scary.
Yes.
I don't.
And they say that people who enjoy the scary movies actually balance out more during a time like this.
Really?
Yeah. I just read that recently in an article. I can't remember where it was exactly, but yeah, that people that kind of move into more of a horror genre and can really find more emotional balance in a time like this.
Well, I was in this class that said that when we dream at night and we have what we might call nightmares, what that is the body releasing that
Mm.
energy. And I watch horror movies before I go to sleep. So I don't ever really remember any dreams. So I think I must do my releasing before I go to sleep.
Or release and then let go of the remember while you're releasing it.
There was
That's all right.
there was a quote on your website that said, you're going to know which one I'm talking about sleep is a temple, go and worship or something. What was it? I'm not getting
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I can't remember exactly either, but yeah, that sleep finds the temple of release and rest, something like that. Yeah.
Worship. I
Yeah.
love it very much. I thought you were in Canada, but you tell me you were in the Poconos. What is
We
it
are
like?
in,
Is that red or blue country?
oh, it's a little mixture of both. Where we are is sort of an interesting combination because there's a lot of theater and film and TV people that live out here too. So we have a very liberal center and then a lot of red wrapped around it. So it's interesting,
Yeah,
very interesting.
I I was asking you right before we opened up if you were a witch, and you were talking to me about really trying to tap in. I'd love to talk more about that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think some of that. I think for me, that's innately part of who I am and who I have always been. You know, since I remember things even as a small child like that. You know, and it's not something that I have formally explored, but done a lot of reading and research and exploration on my own through the years, and just you know weaving it in and out of what I do, and just tapping into that emotional and psychic energy.
Example of it.
It's interesting because sometimes it does happen in dreams. Many of my singers that I work with, I have dreams about specific things of them getting jobs, or I see them in a certain color on stage. Those kinds of things can be fascinating. Yeah, those are interesting little tidbits of things I sometimes see.
I sense, I'm not saying I'm accurate, but I sense that you feel a little like it might be frivolous, but I'm quite serious about it. And it is almost a practice and a discipline for me. This film, Red Pill, came to me in a kind of a vision. I had never made a movie before, and it's the hardest, most exciting, thrilling thing I've ever done. But literally last July, I was having a conversation with a friend, Kim Sykes, and she said something, and I was like, "You don't know what you're talking about." And then over the next week, these images started coming together, and I was Canva, and I was putting all these images together, and then all of a sudden, this flash of like, "Oh, this is what." It didn't feel like this is what's going to be, but it felt like this is the story you're supposed to tell. And at the time when I was fundraising and people would read the script and they would be like, that's such a far-fetched ending. And now that ending is our reality. No, I'm not a fortune teller, but that tapping in where sometimes something is just revealed to you, like it's available there. I was reading about a Peter Torchin guy who they say predicted this moment we're living right now.
When I first read about this movie, just and it was just like snippets of things, my sense of it was that you really did tap in, and it tapped into like a you formalized a time that was present and future and past. That was the sense of it as I just read. And it just, every time I would see something come up, even on social media, I would just get goosebumps
Mm.
that
Yeah,
there's something very, very primordial
and
about it.
witchy about it. There's something
Very.
about it, and so I try to just stay out of the way. People are like, "When is it going to come out?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's going to come out when it's supposed to," because I had planned. My plan had been for it to come out in March, and had it come out COVID, it would have been easily dismissed because it
Yes.
was far fetched.
Yep.
And now it is just going to be, yes, this is what we are living. And someone said to me today, people are going to think you just, added that in at the last minute or something like that.
Nope.
Now, you teach some of the finest Lily is white, and what is, I mean, for her to trust you, I have to go, I have to bow down, because if Lily is one of the finest singers, he thinks this woman is good. I got to, what even listen and, tell me, what is it? You clearly got some magic.
I would hope there is, but the magic happens between, right? I think my job always, or my calling, is to reflect who stands before me, so that the artist that stands in front of me gets to get a sense of how they can be seen. And then we trust that space. I mean, when I started to teach, one of my big things was I did not want to be taught. I did not want to teach the way I had been taught. And that's not from every teacher, because I've had some fabulous teachers. But especially in the singing world, often there is that my way or the highway. You must do as I tell you. You must make sure that you have permission from me to do anything, all of that kind of craziness. And anything like that, any sense of being beholden to someone, I did not want to bring that into the energy in the studio. So my goal always was to create a collaborative space where an artist could come in and explore and feel safe doing that, and begin to discover what could be, and then how they can take that into the industry and start, cracking ceilings and walls, and and be seen as the artist, not as a type, right?
Yeah, you radiate a wonderful warmth. You're Canadian, right?
I am.
And how long have you been down here in the South?
Off and on since 1990.
Now,
And yeah.
I learned this week from this academic who out of Cornell, Kate Mann. She was saying that white women marry outside of their race less than any other group on the planet, and also they support and vote for fascist leaders more than any other group. So tell me how you got to be you're in an interracial relationship. How did that happen? And what was the backlash?
You know what? Interesting. I mean, there could have been backlash elsewhere. There certainly wasn't in our circles, in our families whatsoever. We met in Canada. He was singing in Canada. And I always say, his soul saw my soul, and my soul saw his soul, and then we just figured it out. And we're still trying to figure it out,
It's hard.
It is. Not between us. It's more, it's observing, because I would never say I understand, because I'm not in that skin, but I watch it every day, and so every day I'm learning more in how to support, how to ask the right questions, to learn how to be the kind of person and spirit that needs to be there in support of that. Because interestingly, it has seemed to have gotten worse, not better, And, Thomas is a magnificent tenor, but he was in the Marine Corps at a very young age. Yeah, he was in Vietnam. And so, he's got a very interesting trajectory in his life as well, as a warrior and an artist. So, as a feminine energy in that, and balancing that, we are in interesting times all the time, Yeah.
Children?
He and I do not have. I have a daughter, who's in the business too, and she and her husband are in the Heights.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So I got to ask you this. You said you're in this liberal bubble. I keep wondering, this is just a question I have. I don't have an answer for this. But I sometimes think, if 55% of voting age white women voted for the man in the office.
Oh, I know.
So every time I see two white women, one of them and part of the other one voted for Trump. Do you sense that your white women friends are just not telling you the truth?
My white women friends are telling me the truth.
Okay.
The ones that are in my closest bubble, absolutely. I see with white women, that if they are, I mean, again, it's like an old paradigm. If their husband voted for that man, the tendency is that they do as well.
Why?
I don't know, Tanya. I wish I knew. I think sometimes it's just I want to know. Because I just I cannot fathom how twisted your moral compass must have to become in order to say that that's okay. Right? Like, I just don't understand that.
I need you to go find out, because they're not going to tell me, Susan.
I
They're
know.
not connected to me to speak that truth or be vulnerable or be open to change for me. You got to go do that ministry.
I know. I'm trying. They just make me mad. Then they see me coming and they don't want to talk to me either. Oh Lord, I mean, I wish I really don't understand it at all. I mean, I can see a more conservative mindset seems in some instances to be more protected, but this isn't even conservative anymore.
Right.
You know, this is cult-like, really. Is it? I mean, it is. So what happens to a psyche to then just turn? You know, I mean, remember when Howard Dean just went yeehaw and that was the end of his race?
Mm-hmm.
That's all it took,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you know, every time we saw the next thing with this abomination, we thought, okay, they can't get any worse. It's got, right?
I'm going to say this. I think that man is a master magician, metaphysician, and that he is what is needed in this moment for us. That, people keep talking about the age of the Aquarius, and Aleister Crowley talked about the new aeon. And he has brought about something. He has been a reflection of our world for us as
Yes.
well, and that has been important. And I try to work with my shadow,
Mm-hmm.
embracing my shadow. And one day my discipline was embracing my inner tyrant, and really just moving into, if I was a tyrant, what would I, what could I, and just being in that energy like a toddler having a thing, in my bedroom, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it was a new perspective. It was like, oh, he's having the time of his life. This is not about evil. This is so much fun. He is king of the world. He can knock down all the blocks, and other people have to pick him back up, and he can knock him down again. And it doesn't get any better than this. And who would walk away from that with ease? Now, I'm not saying I think that's good, but I'm saying, as an artist, if I had to play the role, that's the space that I'd come to in playing the role. That this is the shadow in full expression.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That makes total sense. And then that combination of creating your own reality, right? And then, that whole idea of reality show. It's like we're living inside his twisted mind reality show because he's been allowed to create it.
Yes. And people, and they hold the space for it.
Yeah.
And so we all are holding up this reality together. So how are we going to hold a new one?
I don't know. Do we just burn it down and start over again?
Work. Sure. What do you think about that, Susan?
I'm sure a lot of this idea of trauma and intergenerational trauma, absolutely, because we see it everywhere. It's not just white women. Come on. We, as women, I mean, the fact that I can identify as white allows me a lot more privilege and entitlement, and we need to recognize that as white women. and in doing so, then if we can then know that there might be trauma, then if we recognize that intellectually, then we have to do something about that.
How does trauma express in the singing voice?
Oh, it can come through so many different ways. Self-sabotage is a big one, where all of a sudden, you can do something in one space and then make excuses that it can't happen in another space. Writing the script before it happens. That can be a really big one. Oftentimes I find, again, trauma can live in the body in different places. And so it often will sabotage the breath.
I think that's mine.
And then where you hold that in the body, right? So, I mean, if you're going through all of your energy centers, will the breath move through certain spots? I think a big place where a lot of us hold that is at the solar plexus. At the gut reaction spot where, we are often, as women in a totality within a Western civilization, especially, made to feel that we have to either apologize, check to see if it's okay, and then we grip there and hold that.
When I was more comfortable in my singing voice when I first started off, people used to say they marveled at my singing because I never seemed to breathe. And then I learned to breathe, but I could never sing the same anymore. What's that? I don't even know what that is.
I think breath is the magic. Breath is truly the magic. That is what will release and carry anything you have to say. And so sometimes that breath is in some type of motion, and if anything changes the trajectory, that can throw the response off.
What came to me as you were saying that was that maybe in my sort of traumatized gripping, there was a will that could make things and I could control it, and I'm strong-willed and I could make it happen. And then as I learned to breathe, the breathing, I don't have control over that, and that's gonna hit some shit that might happen, and I can't because I don't
Yeah.
have control anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think as as actors too, it's just with the singing voice, everything is extended, right? So we're dealing in intangibles. Breath, we can't see. Vibration, we can't see. In musculature, we can't see. And so the idea then is if we can learn how to create a tangibility in those intangibles, how do you sense that on any level of consciousness? Physically, metaphorically, learning how you learn,
I got to ask how you do that because I've been listening to you and other singers talk about how you can't hear your own voice. And I'm like, well, I'm hearing all the time. What do you mean I can't hear my voice? So if I can't even hear my voice, how are we going to make these intangibles tangible? And I think this is analogous to this trauma that those voters are not aware of too. So how do we make the intangibles? Let's keep it in voice. We'll use it as how do we?
So it's learning how to literally feel, physically feel, emotionally feel, to stay present. And so you're feeling the traveling of that energy. Because you will hear yourself, but you don't hear yourself in the same way. I mean, from a scientific acoustic, like this is always the brain blow for me, because you hear your own voice as a reverb with soft tissue, you get a delay.
Oh.
And everyone else who hears you through air, which carries it to their ear without delay. So I literally hear you before you hear yourself. I mean, it's millisecond, obviously, right? But that's why so often, until you get used to what you sound like, when you hear yourself speaking or singing on recording, the first time you ever hear yourself, it's like, that's me? Really?
Okay. I want to be crazy here. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I never could do singing as a like a cabaret kind of singing. I did never want to sing unless I was a character.
Mm,
Like that was my protection. And if
mhm.
the thing is me, I didn't want to do it. Too vulnerable, too naked. I have not sung in forever. Want to play with me? Let's play.
Yeah, you want to sing a little bit?
I'm scared, Susan, but I'm going to risk it. Okay, you
See,
have.
just the fact, you know what, you don't have to drop the armor, right?
Okay, I'm
So
open and
do so
vulnerable.
do this from an acting perspective. Like give yourself a motivation,
Okay,
right?
what you gonna have me do?
So all I want you to do, oh, you're lucky I stayed at the piano so I can actually
Am I lucky or am I not lucky?
I want you just to take your hum.
What hum?
Just a if you think mum.
Mum.
Yeah, now see, that's anchored in the speaking voice already. So all we do with the singing voice is extend the pitch. So if you just, I'm going to take you here, and we're just going to do 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, and then we're going to release. So mum, 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 and let it live behind the warrior armor of you. Here. One more.
So you were kind and you took me to my place where I'm like so solid and anchored. Come, let's take me to the place where I start cracking. Take me to the passaggio.
Okay.
Go
You
to
want to go there? All right. So do a 5, but stay in that hum. Yeah, stay in that hum. So now do a 5. Mum, 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 mum. Trust yourself.
mum, 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 mum,
Yeah,
mum, mum,
that's it. That's okay. So that's that spot, right?
At that spot. What?
So,
Tell me what note
but
it is.
what? B flat, B natural,
Okay.
right? And then you're over it. So physiologically, what's happening is your voice is wanting to move into another resonance chamber. And the musculature simply needs to elasticize to allow for that stretch to happen.
So how does it do that?
Breath. Exhale. So now, this time, just do a triad, but I want you to use the SH. Think of the SH like a shea butter breath, nice and thick, and it'll settle in. Shummum. You're just going to come down. Shummum, shummum, shummum. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, let that slide because that's the breath. One more. And then you just mix together that passaggio.
What if I don't have a sh to get the breath in the song? Now then I don't have that.
Then what you do is you practice this till the body recognizes the behavior, so it will find any onset, any consonant in a word that moves your air and says, oh, that is familiar. There is my familiar. My breath is my familiar.
Yeah, my breath is not my familiar.
But it will be.
Well,
Before we're done, it will be.
my familiar. Do you still study?
Yes, I do.
Who's your teacher?
I study with a woman in Canada named Irena Velhashberg.
Okay.
I've worked with her for over about 20 years now.
And what has changed in your voice over 20 years?
It has gotten richer.
Mm.
It's gotten much more grounded. She really, when I first went to her, I had some vocal trauma. And so she helped rebuild with me the top of my voice. I'd lost the top of the voice, and has become one of my very best friends over all of this time. But she got me back into my breath in order to access the physical again.
But the breath makes you feel things and it's emotional and it can make you, you can feel that someone's going to see something really you don't want them to see or you don't want to feel right in this moment or something.
But what if the breath was the elasticity of safety that you could wrap yourself in like a beautiful piece of chiffon that nothing penetrates unless you say it's okay?
How would I ever get to that? I can't. That's a nice sentence. I don't see how.
Oh, I think you're closer to that than you. I think you're very close to that.
For me, the breath is it is the uncontrollable wind storm that could take you, you could lose your mind. You could do anything. The breath could hit something in you and you literally don't know what it's going to be that's going to express.
But if you train with it and not against it, if you harness the power of that, it becomes the armor that you can wrap around yourself so you choose who gets through that and who does not.
I like the sound of it. The Native Americans and actually some of the witchy fairy people talk about the wind as a god, and that we actually
Yes.
borrow from that god to actually animate ourselves. That we are asking permission of this god all the time to even live.
Yes. Yes, yes. And you do that every day. I mean, you are breathing life into what you're creating right now with this movie.
That it is true. It somehow feels safer.
Just
Um,
it has a different form,
it has a different,
right?
and the form of song is naked. To me, singing is the most naked thing that I would ever do.
Yeah.
How did you lose your upper voice?
Um, I was doing an opera, and one of my kidneys began to fail. But I did not want to lose the opportunity, so I sang through it. And so the combination of being, working with medication and doctors and in rehearsal, I just lost everything on the top of my voice because I was in so much pain I couldn't support, and the breath wouldn't move. So I was slamming my chords together with no airflow.
What is the connection between kidney, breath, voice?
Kidney is there's a lot of subconscious energy in the
Mhm.
kidneys, and a lot of fire.
Mm.
Yeah.
Did you save your kidney or did you have to lose one?
No, I saved it. Yeah.
Okay.
I've had issues with it over the years, but it just kind of rears up once in a while just to let me know that I might need to clear some of that fire again. But yeah, we were able, and we weren't sure, if we were able to even repair the voice at that point. And Arena just said, "Listen, I have no idea. Let's try." She said, "But you aren't going to be singing for anybody for 6 months." So we worked twice a week for 6 months.
So I want to talk about something that might be hard for you, but I mentioned to you before we came on that I had surgery in my throat last year, and I
Right.
put it off for 6 years, even though the condition I had, they said was terminal. But what they said is that the surgery could cost me my voice. And I was like, you know what? If I lose my voice, I'm gonna want to die anyway. So let me just risk dying before I'm gonna let you do some surgery. So what was it like for someone to tell you you can't sing? I mean, that's your love and your livelihood. What was that?
That lit the fire.
But
I
the
said,
making you sick.
oh, hell no. I am going to get this back.
Mm.
And that's what we did. So, my Achilles heel and my best trait are that I'm very stubborn. I was stubborn and pushed through when I shouldn't have. But then I said, no, this is not taking me out, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah, that's some fire.
I mean, and the same thing happened with, about 9 years ago, Thomas and I were in a near fatal car accident. And that was another one where I said, no, a 18-wheeler truck hit us, and that is not taking me out.
Okay, you drop that in 18. Were there any fatalities?
No, thank goodness there were not.
What were the injuries to all of the people, the three of you?
Um, Thomas and I were in one car, and there was another couple in another car. I'm not sure what their injuries were. And I don't recall any of this. I have just bits and pieces. But I was, yeah, and I was out. Like they had to airlift us to Morristown, so I was in trauma unit and then moved to a rehab hospital and had to relearn how to walk. I broke the top 3 ribs off my sternum, and singing saved my life. I know that sounds absolutely hokey, but when my spine surgeon came in, I mean, I broke basically everything on the right side of my body. So, and major head trauma. And so, I am here and I am here. But he asked me, what do you do for a living? Because he said, most times when we see ribs off the sternum, because of the location of the lungs, they pierce the lung and you're gone. He said, your intercostals are so overdeveloped, your intercostals just held your ribs in place. So he said, what do you do? And that was from singing. And he said, okay, that makes total sense. I figured either you're a singer or a swimmer, because those are the only 2 things that would develop the intercostals like that.
I don't
So
know what intercostals are, but I'm gonna go look that up right
yeah,
now.
all these muscles between the ribs, right, just held everything together.
And what about Thomas?
Thank God he was fine. I mean, he had a concussion, lost a couple teeth, had a few stitches, but he was, released after a week or a few days. I don't even know exactly. Thank goodness, because if the 2 of us had been like me, that would have been a mess.
How long were you in the hospital?
This happened mid-June, and I think I was out in August and home.
Were you the driver?
No, I was in the passenger seat. Yeah. Yeah.
And what about those ribs that came off? Do you not have them, or did they have to?
No, they fused them back in. Like they literally just wrapped me up and let them fuse back.
So it automatically happens? The body does that?
The body can do that. So that was, and then I had other breaks that had to be repaired and surgeries and all that kind of stuff. But
So you're like the bionic woman.
I have angels. I tell you, I do for sure. Earthbound angels and angels throughout.
Okay, so we know at least 2 deaths in this life. She's got at least 9 lives. She's a cat. Um, for you coming that close to death, how did it change how you live?
It there's a control thing. It reveals that you're not as much in control as you think you are. And because I am an earth mama and I want to look after everybody, I couldn't even look after myself. Someone else had to. So it was a real reckoning with releasing that control and learning how to stay in the present moment.
Did you cry a lot?
I did and I didn't. It was an interesting time. I got very still. That's something I remember because I had no choice, literally and figuratively, There was a stillness that came over me that was new, but recognizable at the same time. It was fascinating.
Were there any other insights that came to you when you're getting a third chance?
Yeah, I think it was that being present, releasing that I mean, I was surviving, but releasing that panic that so much we feel in our business too, of just surviving and what's going to come next and will there be work. And, I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. You know what I mean? Like that, all that other stuff didn't matter. And I mean, my mantra every night as I fell asleep was, I am alive and I will be well.
Mm.
And I went to bed with that and I woke up with that. And I might have cried in between sometimes, but I don't actually remember crying a lot. It was just like everything just became very still,
Mm.
you know?
How did your daughter?
She was a rock. And I can't even imagine when she got that phone call. She was with her new boyfriend at the time, who's now her husband, and he brought her right out to trauma. I was still in the emergency room, and unfortunately, she had to see me in that state. But she was incredible for all of us.
Wow, I think that those kind of experiences actually strengthen us. Like I was present for births and deaths in my childhood growing up, and so I feel like it's a privilege when you can be present with people as they're transitioning from one
Yes.
to the other. An incredible gift that so few people get.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And it's interesting, when my dad passed before this, one of the last things he said to me was, Suze, where I'm going, I can look after you better.
Oh,
So it was in that moment of, because nobody thought, like, even the people that pulled us out of the car, I ran into them, years later, and they were just like, thought they'd seen a ghost, and said, we walked up to that car and said, there's not going to be anybody alive in that car. So again, angels watching over me.
wait, I got to get that little detail. Some strangers stopped and pulled y'all out of the car.
No, some of the EMS people, that when they got to the car, yeah, they actually said to each other, being told this after the fact, right, that prepare yourself because there's not going to be anybody alive in that car.
Wow.
But we were.
And your dad, this is like one of the last things he said to you.
Yeah,
Do you feel him?
yeah, every day.
My mom died a couple of years ago, and I feel her more strongly as a positive presence now than ever when she was here.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Necromancy. I was reading about necromancy. Are you familiar with a book called Ankara Gwyn?
No, I mean, I know the title, but I don't know yeah.
I think that's a book for you.
All right, I shall look at it.
And the angels and things like that. It's sort of, I don't know. I was reading it when I saw your picture online, and I was like, "Who's this?" It's been such a pleasure to get
Oh, it's been an honor, an absolute honor.
a session offline, or we could schedule it right now. We could do something next week.
Yes, we can.
I wanna experience this. I know for me, one of the challenges, and I share my personal stuff with people because I think that a lot of times when people look at people who have what they dream of, or they imagine that it was easy or that it's wonderful or perfect or all good, and I believe what the Balinese believe, that life is a balance of both the good and the bad. When you can maintain your equanimity in the both, that is as healthy as you can be. And for me with the singing, it's such a vulnerability and risk for me, and such a ministry for me, that I just began to feel that when I sang in New York, it was definitely a throwing of pearls before swine, that it wasn't, people did not realize what it was, the risk of it for me to do it. And it was like, you know what? You got all these other people and you like them just as much. You can have that. This
Yeah.
costs me too much
Yes.
for me to do this. The cost to me is too much.
Yeah. And I think when you recognize that too, it allows you to contain, you know? And I think in this time, as artists and artists in the industry in whatever aspect, like, this is the change we need to make, recognizing that before things begin to open up. We can't wait till they open up to make those changes,
Mm,
you know?
mm,
And that's what I try to, reflect with the singers in front of me always, that you are the change, and you can say no. You can create that reality in front of whoever the gatekeeper happens to be, and maybe in this time we need to all be that gatekeeper and release all that other, before it starts to pick up again. It'll be too late.
Yes. Yes, I'm going to say that phenomenology is the it says that each and every one of us is creating our own reality. And in that sense, we do get to decide what that's going to be.
Yes.
Ooh, you've told me so many, very personal things. I have this question because you shared, I don't know, I'm going to ask,
Ask me.
what is something that you thought was the worst thing that could happen to you, but now from the vantage point you have now was one of the best things that ever happened to you?
Whew, that's a heavy one.
Mm.
Um, well, maybe, I mean, in a more specific way, it might have been recognizing I was in a marriage that I should not have been in, and yet the best thing that came out of that was my daughter.
Mm.
You know, that, I mean, it's like decisions lead to decisions.
Mhm.
And so it is never, like you say, it's a balance. Because if you say, I wish I'd never done that, and yet how would that have then, how would the trajectory have changed? What
Mhm.
would not be there anymore, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so again, like, how do I learn from that? As opposed to, how do I work through those emotions of that time in order to release that, to see the good that has emerged from that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we can wish it all away, and then what?
Yeah.
You know?
I have come to this place of blessing and thanking all of the people who I might have judged as being my obstacles or stones in my path, and all the people who said no to me. I bless and honor them, that they were, what sharpened me and prepared me for the next place I needed to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might be hard to do in the past, I mean in the present
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I think we can change past, present, and future right in this moment. So if we can go back and bless all those places where we were cursing, I think we can change the trajectory of everything.
I agree. 100%.
Oh, such a pleasure to meet you and get to know a little tiny bit about.
And oh, it's been an honor, Tanya. Truly.
I'm going to ask anybody if they had any questions they wanted to ask us before we wrap up the hour. Anybody want to ask anything? No questions? All right. Well, Susan, yeah, wait a minute. I was looking in the chat. Was somebody chatting something? I'm gonna just open up the chat just to see if there was something in there. Thank you all for coming, and it's just been a blessing. I really look forward to getting to know you and working with you. I'm scared, but I'm excited.
No,
I
we
always
will
like
make sounds. We will make sounds.
sounds. Oh, Susan, we will make cry and scream and
And it will be a safe place to do so.
Oh, I got to tell you this one little thing before we go. I studied with Dr. Lena McGlynn,
Mm.
is infamous for being R. Kelly's voice coach, and famous for being Shaka Khan's coach. Both of them she worked with at Kenwood High School in Chicago. When I went to study with her, I was like, Dr. McGlynn, I want to sing like Shaka Khan. And she said, child, that's not a sound, that's a condition. I was like, I want some of that condition.
Let's create the condition.
It's like, yes. So I want some condition.
You are a condition, Miss Tanya.
Praise. I'm gonna stand in agreement with you. Thank you.
You
Thank
are.
you. Bless you and bless Thomas. I look forward to getting to know him as well. And thank you for joining us here today.
Oh, it is my pleasure and honor. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. And all, please follow us on Red Light. I'm hoping we will have it ready in a month. I think we're that close. A month. I've been listening to the sound design from Paul Sue, and tomorrow I'm going to hear the score with T Skoll. And it's really, I see with my ears. So when the sound design came in, I began to go, oh, this has to move and this has to move, because I realize that even when I'm watching movies, I'm doing other things, and the sound tells me when I need to look at the screen that something's going to happen. Because most of the, it's all filler, and I'm like, okay, sound. Oh, I need to pay attention now. Thank
Yeah.
you. Bless you all.
Bless you
Thank
too.
you. Stay safe. Wear a mask. They save lives.
Thank you.